Well, the future takes up a long potential time, so I'm sure we'll see someone similar to Greenspan in the future. But you're right, he was a different type of Fed chairman because not only was he very knowledgeable about economics, but he wasn't academic. And so he was basically going from the data to the decision making rather than from the model to the decision making. And so sometimes when the world changed, he got it right before anybody else did. The best example, of course, was the late 1990s when there was this
Right.
productivity boom and Greenspan held off on tightening monetary policy. So I think he was, an exceptional chairman, both in terms of his understanding of economics, his openness to data, his willingness to, change his mind and update his forecast. I think the only really, blind spot was really his views about financial stability and regulation. His view was always, we can't identify bubbles in real time, so all we can do is
Right.
clean up after the fact. And obviously, the great financial crisis showed that cleaning up after the fact is always it's not always the right approach.
Well, to get into your excellence at Berkeley and to say, okay, it is about the regulation decision. Are we making the same mistakes today that the critics say were made in '05 and '06?
I don't see the same kind of problems. Number one, in terms of the market having a lot of assumptions that will ultimately turn out to be wrong. I mean, if you look at 2006, 2007, there was all these assumptions. AAA CDOs are safe. Housing markets can never decline on a national basis. Um, you know, uh, there were just a lot of assumptions that turned out subprime lending is not risky. All those assumptions turned out to be dramatically wrong. So I think, I think there's risk to financial stability today, obviously in the non-bank financial sector. But the other thing is we have a much more robust regulatory regime. I know we're in the process of dismantling that to a degree. I think it's important that we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. But we did learn a lot of good lessons from the financial crisis that I think means that the financial system fundamentally is stronger than it was back then.
Putting all that, putting all, putting all that together, Bill, what do you think the legacy is for Mr. Greenspan with our little bit of a hindsight here?
I think he's obviously going to go down in history as a great central banker. Also, go down as someone who was really politically adept. I mean, he navigated through Democratic and Republican administrations really well and didn't have the kind of conflicts that a lot of other central bankers have run into, like Jay Powell, for example. So I think that combination of good economic intuition, reliance on data, ability to navigate through Washington really well is pretty special. I just wish he'd done a little bit better on the financial stability regulatory side. If he did that, he'd sort of get straight A's.
Let's fast forward it to today. Mr. Warsh, we did hear from Kevin Warsh last week for the first time as chairman of the Fed. What were your takeaways?
Well, I think the big takeaway is number one that it's going to be a different regime under Kevin Warsh. So the regime change that he promised is in the process of happening. You can just tell it right off the bat with a very, very much shortened statement. I think and in getting rid of Ford guidance, I think is completely appropriate. But I'm pretty nervous about his views about not communicating at all about how the Fed is likely to react if the economic circumstances change. This reliant on the market's views to sort of guide policy, I think, is a mistake. The Federal Reserve needs to set monetary policy, not financial markets. And if you're relying on the markets, how do you make the decision? Markets basically don't price to what they think the Fed should do; they price to what they think the Fed will do. So
Right.
if you're relying on the markets, you have this indeterminacy about what you should do. So I think that's a mistake. I think transparency, I think, is very helpful in terms of the conduct of monetary policy because you do want markets to think along with the Fed. When strong economic report comes out, you want the markets to reprice in terms of their expectation about the monetary policy path. But to do that well, you need good communication. You need
Right.
the markets to understand the Fed's monetary policy reaction function. So I think the risk here is Kevin is throwing out the baby with the bathwater. I have no problem getting rid of Ford guidance, but don't throw out information about the Fed's monetary policy reaction function at the same time. And I think he did that at the press conference because he was asked very explicitly what would cause you to want to tighten monetary policy, and he really wouldn't answer the question. I mean, obviously, an obvious answer would be if inflation
Right.
stays longer for higher than I expect, then we'll obviously have to tighten monetary policy. Or if the economy is stronger than we expect, then obviously I'll
Right.
revise up my estimate of a neutral monetary policy. But he refused to answer those questions, and I think maybe okay for the first press conference, but I don't think that can be sustained over time.
Dudley, fired up. That's what we're saying right now. William Dudley with us, and we continue, the former president of the New York Fed. You're sitting there, Bill, all fired up, and everybody knows I agree with you on this. I mean, to be polite about it. The heritage of your shop called Goldman Sachs, and Hatzius has carried this forward, is a disinflation narrative. Is the big shock after this war with West Texas Intermediate a 71.49, so I could get with constructive news a 69 handle here. Are we prepared, Bill Dudley, for the disinflation narrative that could come?
Well, there's going to be a disinflation narrative really starting next month, right away, when we get the PC and CPI data for June, because obviously oil prices and gasoline prices have come down this month. But I think that you have to look in the broader context. What's the pressure on resources more broadly? We still have a lot of price pressures. Like, for example, chip prices are going up really rapidly. And I think the fundamental question really for the monetary policy outlook is the question, is monetary policy actually restrictive today? And my own personal view is that there's not much evidence of that. I mean, we've had the monetary policy at this setting or tighter for 3 years, and yet we're still at an unemployment rate consistent with full employment. So if monetary policy isn't restrictive, then why do you need to cut rates?
What's the next data point, Bill, that you think the market should really be focusing on?
I think the labor market is really important here. I mean, I think if the economy is strong enough to keep the payrolls growing like the pace they've done over the last few months, the unemployment rate's flat to declining. That's going to continue to push the Fed in the direction of thinking that they need to tighten monetary policy. I don't, I'm a little uncertain about how fast monetary policy tightening is likely to occur, or what that probability is, because it's not clear how much commitment Kevin Warsh has to actually doing it. I mean, the talk is cheap. Of course, everybody's in favor of price stability, but the question is, what are you actually prepared to do to achieve that outcome? And I don't think we really know that at this point. I mean, he couldn't have obviously said the opposite. I'm not in favor of price stability. So it's not really clear that there's a lot of content in that statement.